So today we're going to be tying the Yak Minnow. It's a pretty straightforward pattern. It only uses 3 materials. So one would be black yak in 6-8, nice blue yak 6-8, and lateral scale, my favourite flash. Now you can add angel hair as well into the fly, but today we won't be, because I wouldn't be a big fan of a lot of flash in my flies. So yeah, hook wise is the SA 280 minnow in a size 2.0. Now again, all of this can be scaled up or down depending on the size. You can tie these yak flies on a size 2 as well, or even a size 4 if you really want. Starts getting a bit coarse below that, and there's other materials that will suit better. But for general saltwater, it's pretty straightforward. Now I've pre-prepared a load of materials here. So just there's 4 bundles of each. It's using two cut-off sections of yak. So the longer pieces will be tied in first, moving to the shorters. So for the tail, it's basically about a 4-inch piece of yak here. You don't want to go too heavy on the old yak. I normally don't tie in more than the thickness of the shank at any one go. So as I cut this straight off the hank, you do need to pre-taper it before you tie it in. It'll make a lot less trimming later on. So to do the tail, it's going to be, you're going to tie it in at a midpoint and fold it back on itself, but it'll be 40% to the back of the hook, 60% to the front. So it's just, and you want it all on top of the shank, yeah. So 4 wraps, pull the thread back to the start point, so that when you fold it over, it's got a good 3 or 4 mil that it can grip onto. Okay, bring it forward. Just use 2 wraps or so just to hold the material in place. Then it's your lateral scale, 2 strands, just fold it around the bobbin, slide it up the thread, and again you're going to want all of this directly on top of that other shank. It doesn't need to extend past. So your black yak, just pull out the cut ends there, sort of pre-taper it. Again, it starts at 4 inches, goes to about 5, and again you're going to want 40% to the front, 60% to the back this time round. Okay, again it just gets a nice and even taper on that tail. Pull it back. Oops. There we go. So I call this style, I don't know if there is a style for it, but where I tie the yak now for the head part, so I just call it high and tight. There's another that I do, which is the X tie, but I call that the short and fat. Right, brush that in. Again, keep picking up the wrong colour first. So it's about 2.5 inches. Just again, pre-taper that cut end. You're going to want to lay it down parallel to the hook shank. A couple of loose wraps, hold it in place. Instead of spreading this, you're just going to lift it up at the back there. Okay. Again, the back, the same thing. It's a little bit too long. So again, 2.5 inches. Pull it out, pre-taper it. Lay it down. couple of loose wraps, pull up that back here. There we go. And then what you're going to do with this is you're just going to put it back, and this wrap you're going to spread it, the front that you folded forward, you're going to spread it around the hook a little bit, like so. There we go. Drop a glue there. Okay, and the super glue just keeps everything locked in place. Do the same again with a shorter bunch. Pre-taper now, this is only about 1.5 inches long or so. Don't need to go much more longer, because if you do, you're going to end up trimming a load and wasting a load of good material. Okay, black, short 1.5 inch. Just lay it up top. Okay, you want to pull that up in the last few wraps. Okay, and this one you're going to fold back on itself. Two loose wraps. Just push that all the way around the hook. It's going to slide off there. Drop a super glue, hold it all in place. There we go. So you can see that's quite a narrow profile on this fly. It could still be trimmed down a bit as well. Last bundle. Again, just pre-taper a little bit. Again, similar sort of length. And you're tying these last two stacks in at the halfway mark, pretty much. Just make sure it gets right to the front of the eye. So this is the last one. Okay, exactly the same. Pre-taper it, lay it down, wind it back, make sure it's nice and upright. Fold it back on itself. Okay. And that's it. That's your fly pretty much done. Let's just tie it off. Add a bit of black just to colour that thread in. Brush it out. Bit of super glue holds it all in place. Now going to trim. Long bladed scissors are the easiest, and you just start with nice little head there. Trim off some of the sides. Right, you're going to need to take it out of the vise as well. Spread it with your fingers. And then we're going to do the first cut. Don't know if you can see that. Using the bend of the hook as a gauge. Oops. And the top cut, exactly the same, but you're going to have to judge it by eye. So you get a nice triangular taper there. And then round off that belly, so it's not too much of a taper. There we go. Well, that's basics done. I like to keep. Now you can keep trimming this fly forever in the vise. Keep trimming away those loose hairs, but it doesn't matter how much you trim it. One cast into the ocean and it's going to come back looking like a hedgehog dragged through the bush backwards. That's your basic profile right there. There we go. Nice and narrow, wide head. That's good fish capture. Now for the eyes, again we're using the ahrex repair 100. You're going to want to push that into the shank of the hook. Give it a nice base of glue. Now the reason I like the ahrex is it's really tough, but it's also nice and flexible as well, so the eyes don't pop off as easily. Nothing keeps eyes on 100%, but ahrex I find does the job the best. Again, you can use your UV glues, all depends on what you like, but I like ahrex. Get that eye in there. Make sure they're lined up. Yep. Leave it to dry. When it's dry, I will give it one final trim. But again, you can trim this fly forever and ever, and you just keep trimming and trimming. But that's your basic Yak Minnow right there. Swap out as many colours as you want. Most popular colours would be the obvious tans and chartreuses, olives, etc. But I'm quite partial to a blue and black. Has a good all-rounder as well, especially in those darker waters. You can also put rattles in out the tail using a bit of flexo tubing to hide it. Red gills as well, just by putting a little bit of base of a fluff of a hackle in there on that second tie-in point. Yeah, that's it. That's the fly anyways. Loads of options. So yeah, happy days. But yeah, like I say, yak is the way to go. I've said it numerous times before, but yak is a natural material. It comes from an animal. It's going to degrade if the fly does get bitten off. So it's not going to pollute the ocean as much. I know most people, you can't really get away from synthetics 100% in flies, but I like to get away a little bit from them as much as possible. So yeah, I've started using the yak a few years ago, and yeah, never looked back. A lot of the flies that I used to do synthetics, I didn't even write that I'd changed over to yak. Just happened naturally, and yeah, no one said anything. Still just as durable, I find. It's great material all around. Anyways, have a good one. Speak to you soon.